What up, everybody? It's JP Finley. It's the Beltway Football Podcast. We're brought to you by Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. We ride with them. Want you to do the exact same thing. You can check them out online at oarsmanva.com. Joined by the big man, Mr. Mitch Tischler. Mitchell, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy to talk more Brandon Ayuk because, man, that's been such a fun storyline this whole offseason.
You'll be shocked to know he requested a trade. Just shocked to know he requested a trade. The formality of requesting the trade, because we know you're going to hold out from training camp next week, is like, I wonder at what point the Niners are frustrated with all this. We've kind of made our case clear. I don't believe this makes sense for Washington. I don't. If Adam Peters is committed to building through the draft, they've got to get better on both trenches. I wouldn't want to give away draft picks. This is a long-term rebuild here. I know that, like, for fans that have been kicked in the mud for 20, 25 years, they want immediacy. But Peters just got here. Harris just got here. They want to build this thing the right way. Having to give away players or picks and then sign a guy to 25, 30 mil just doesn't add up to me. And it doesn't add up to the Niners. Dude, tell me what you think. The only player that would make sense for the Niners to get back in an Ayuk trade, because the Niners' focus is winning the Super Bowl, would be Terry McLaurin. And I don't think I'd make that trade.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument that if the Commanders were going to do something with John Allen, maybe that would make sense because he's a big-time player, and certainly he would help that defensive line a lot. But at the end of the day, I think we've said this enough. I don't think a trade matters. I think I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think the love for Brandon Ayuk across the league might have gone over their skis a little bit. He's certainly a good football player, but are we sure that he's a top 10 receiver in the NFL outside of that 49ers offense? Last year, Deebo Samuel missed the 2 games with a shoulder injury, and Ayuk averaged the same numbers in those 2 games that he did the rest of the season. It's not like he stepped up and became a superstar in the absence of the other big-time receiver on that offense. And I think, when we look at almost everybody on that offense outside of maybe Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, I think a lot of the success has to be credited to Kyle Shanahan and the offense that they put together. And certainly I'm not ready to give up, draft picks and pay a guy who I'm not exactly sure is a elite NFL receiver.
Well, dude, I think there's real questions if Terry's a top 10 NFL receiver.
Sure.
Like, and I think if you broke like the wideout groups into tiers, there's Tyreek, his own tier. Then you've got, or maybe Jefferson's in that tier, Jamar Chase. Like, there is a true elite. And I think I think the quarterback mantra of whoever the next quarterback that comes up resets the market in free agency, like, that's true for quarterbacks. They get to play in their own world. I almost wonder if part of this is Jefferson just got paid, and maybe it's CD, whoever it is trying to drive that as the market runner, and that's not the market runner. That's just not how it's going to work. These dudes, I mean, frankly, I'd pay CD more than I'd pay Ayuk.
Me too.
I don't think it's another little interesting wrinkle in all. So the John Allen thing, I hear you, right? In a player for player swap, a comp, right. But like, the Niners offense needs I think Deebo is a total freak, but he's not like a true wideout like Ayuk is. And I just think the Niners offense needs a true wideout. And Allen, I'd love to see him run a 9, but I don't think he's a true. It just doesn't make sense to me. If it was going to happen, it'd be draft day. But another interesting wrinkle in all this is, and apparently it's going to be minor, but did you see that Ricky Pearsall, the first-round receiver the Niners drafted, landed on the NFI? And so the NFI is a non-football injury list, which sounds worse than it is. It just means he got hurt outside of official practice with San Francisco. Like, he could have been hurt playing, like working with his private receiver coach and still playing football. Maybe he got hurt. Who was our guy that cut his foot on the jet ski?
Oh, who was that? I'm not going to come up with that name. Our guy, Kieran Amagaji, who I loved pre-drafted, also ended up on that same non-football injury list. But through all this Brandon Ayuk stuff and the request for a trade and all that, it makes you appreciate what Terry McLaurin did when he was up for his contract. And honestly, Cam Curl too, where they still showed up to the offseason activities. They weren't participating, but they were at least there, and they didn't want to risk injury as they were trying to work through whatever contract stuff they were. I think Terry has shown you so much. And if you go out and make a trade for a guy like Ayuk, you're giving up whatever draft compensation you're paying him. And then you're also telling Terry,
I'm not advocating for that at all.
I know, but
right.
You're setting the market for what you got to pay Terry then as well, because I agree Terry's a very good receiver. And I think everyone that's fans of the Burgundy and Gold know kind of what kind of guy he is. Brandon Ayuk is going to want to reset the wide receiver market. When Terry is trying to negotiate his contract next
year. I don't
year,
know if he's the audacity for Ayuk to say that he would want to reset the Washington receiver market.
You know what? He's not gonna one up the Justin Jefferson deal. You're right, but he's gonna ask for
or Tyreek
money, right? But Terry's gonna be up next year. You're probably gonna have to start negotiating with him if you want to bring him back. And right. I don't think those negotiations are going to be quite as aggressive or troublesome as the Ayuk and 49ers are. And I think by bringing in a guy who just went through that, you're just creating yourself a situation here in Washington.
Terry's not up till the end of the 25 season. So it's not like he's not in a contract season. Like he's got 25 on
right.
I'm 26 is the void year.
Yeah.
I don't think any of this, I think this is a much ado about nothing because I think it's not really in the cards. I also wonder, and I don't want to pull this thread too far because we don't know. And Terry's been so above it throughout his whole career, but I kind of wonder how he feels about all this. Like, hey, rookie quarterback, maybe stop helping this dude. And like, I think Jayden at this point is like, I'm out. Or at least I'm taking my distance. I did notice, as silly as this is, Jayden posted some pictures to Instagram last night. None of them had Brandon Ayuk. So I think maybe that's a positive step. I think you and I are in the same spot. I think a lot of fans are excited about the possibility of Ayuk. I don't think it makes sense. If you're building through the draft, it would have been one thing draft weekend. It doesn't add up to me now.
And I think it's fair to say we saw Terry working out with Jayden and the rest of the offense this offseason, right? Like the in this dead period. And, we know that Ayuk and Jayden Daniels are friends. And I think Ayuk kind of, maybe took advantage of his friend a little bit along the way.
Totally. Yeah. He used him. No, we don't have to pretend on that. He 100% used a rookie that maybe didn't understand the scope of the league. And maybe they're cool with it. Like, maybe they're like, who cares? But that happened 100%. Yeah. And I'll be I would very educatedly guess that some folks in Ashburn said enough's enough. Yeah. And got on the phone and said, hey, enough is enough with this stuff. I'm technically speculating, but I'm very confident some folks in Ashburn had some conversations, and I wouldn't be stunned if some folks in Ashburn finally called Ayuk's age and said, what are you doing here, dude?
Yeah.
You think you're helping anything? Yeah. Right. All right. So for timestamp guy, it's 9:22 a.m. on Thursday. For the TV audience, we're making this is going to be TV. So you're watching us on Monumental Sports Network, but we're also going to make this a pod. So listen up. So Mitch, we're just going to do this live. I recognize we have a shorter amount of time for television, but let's just keep going for the pod.
Yeah.
Okay. Rookies report. Rookies report to Ashburn before the rest of the team. The official rest of the team reports next week. That's why we kind of get away with not looking our sharpest because next week is business time. This is our last week of summer. Non-Jayden division, I think I know who you're going to say, the rookie you are most interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. To me, it's going to be Brandon Coleman. I think he's going to give a good battle for that starting left tackle position. And what I liked most about what I saw during minicamp and OTAs was that kind of the raw athleticism that we know from his RAS scores and all that translated to the football field, at least in the shorts and t-shirt period. And that July, I think 28th, which is the first day that fans are going to be at training camp, I believe is going to be probably their first
day. Welcome back or welcome home or whatever.
Welcome home. And that's going to be a massive day for Brandon because that's going to be the first time that we get a chance to see kind of how he conducts himself in a padded practice against NFL DNs and D tackles, and whether that speed and athleticism translates to balance and strength and power and inability to block those guys. And so Brandon Coleman's certainly going to be the guy that I watch most. And I think also kind of secondary and maybe related, not rookie division, but Cornelius Lucas was getting work on the right side as well during minicamp and OTAs. If Brandon Coleman proves that he's a guy that can be reliable on that left side starting week one, I think you're going to see a fun battle on the right side between Big Luke and Andrew Wiley about who's going to be able to take that starting position over there.
The only things we know on this O-line are Biotish at center and Cosme at right guard. Everything else, there are things we think, but we don't know. Like
I think we can realistically think Allegretti is going to be your left guard, but certainly yes,
sure.
we don't know that in stone.
I think the next most definitive thing is Allegretti at left guard, and I'd put that at like 3/4 chance, like 75%, right? And then I still put Wiley at like 65, 70, and Coleman probably at 50-50. I don't know, but we know we know the center and the right guard. And everything else is going to play out, and I'm excited for that. You also cheated tremendously on,
I know,
one, taking Coleman when we're talking about rookies, and two, just talking about the whole line. I am.
What do you want from me? That's who I am.
Well, I'm going to cheat too, man. I'm curious of a few things. That Sunday morning, Saturday is the first off day of camp, and if I know you and I know you and I. Sunday morning is going to come early. It's going to be padded, and it's the first day with fans there, which means parking is going to be jacked. What are the chances you and I end up at One Loudon having to take a shuttle bus?
I hope 0, but it's a non-zero chance. I'll tell you that much. Because fans get there early, and you and I are typically not the earliest arrivals. Although I guess am I going to have to continue the first player out to the field game this year?
That is your bit, dude. I'd be disappointed if it went away. I want to see Johnny Newton. I want to see if there's walking boots on his feet. I'd love to see him on the field. I don't think we're talking enough about Sammerstill, who's a guy they love. And for all the, let's get this secondary figured out, maybe he's a huge part of that. And then you talk about the linebackers, man. Jordan McGee, he looked good without pads on. And I mean, Wagner, Luvu, roster locks. McGee, 5th rounder, they just took him I'm curious about McGee. As far as if you can make some plays, can you be on the roster right away? Like, how does that look? And then I think that kind of correlates to Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis took a lot of pass rushing snaps. Like, is that really how they view him? Are they trying to figure something out for him? I'm curious about all.
Listen, if you're going to cheat real quick, hold on. If you're going to cheat.
No, you cheated. You cheated, so I got to cheat back.
We're both cheating. It's fine.
No. You started the cheating.
Fine. I started the cheating. Then I'm going to finish the cheating and go with Luke McCaffrey as well, because I think that we've talked about this. I think that he's going to have a massive impact on this offense, and I think I've said it. We said it on the pod. I think we made a little steak chicken finger wager or something that I think that he might end up with more receiving yards than Jahan Dotson out there, because I think that he's going to.
We did make that bet.
Yeah.
So, all right. I don't remember what the
steaks were.
Chicken wings or steaks?
I think the odds were chicken wings, 2 steaks. Like, if it happens, you buy me a steak, I buy you chicken fingers or something, because it's pretty.
That's fair, because I should be. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Wings to a steak. Fair.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm excited for Luke McCaffrey. What's the last thing we want to talk about?
Last thing, I wrote a story for NBC Washington that everybody should go read. It is roughly 10 stats that should encourage you for training camp and this season. And the number one stat, and we kind of stumbled onto this in the last pod going through the Robinson Eckler numbers. The offense last year was so broken. You had Sam Howell lead the NFL in pass attempts. They were dead last in rush attempts. I mean, think about that Bears game when they threw the ball, what was it, 53 straight times or whatever?
Just the most absurd stat in football.
So fundamentally broken. I'm not putting it all on Bieniemy. I thought the play calling was bad, but there were a lot of bad factors going on. I think a lot of it was EB, but Cliff, everybody wants to talk about this air raid that he ran at Texas Tech 100 years ago. Like, that offense has evolved so much. And in his 4 years in Arizona, they averaged 13th in rush attempts across the NFL. If you look at his best year in Arizona, 2021, when they went 11-5 in the regular season, they were 7th in the NFL in rush attempts. That same year, you had Edmonds and Connor go for over 2,000 from scrimmage. I just think the most encouraging thing, I think this offense will have some balance. And then for all like the nitpickers that are like, oh, well, Kyler was running too. What do you think Jayden's going to do, man? What do you think Jayden's going to do?
I don't think Jayden's going to run very much. I think
he's going to run some.
How many what's your over-under for called quarterback runs per game? What's your kind of guess this season? I think it's like three a game. I think it's like three a game, maybe.
I was gonna
And it
say
might
three
even
and
be
a half,
less than
4.
that. Yeah.
I was gonna
So
say, yeah, but
I
then
think
he's also a scrambler, dude. Like
right.
he gets out of the pot. I think he's gonna like. I mean, what is his rush yards totals? Like those numbers are
550
out
and a
there.
550 and a half.
That might be too high. I think Kyler, his rookie year, was somewhere closer to like 400 yards. But
But I
I
also think
think
Kyler's more of a runner than Jayden is. My point being that, I mean, that I am very high on Jayden. I think he's gonna have a great year. I think I think if things go well and he plays all 17 games, I don't think he's gonna have more than 60 to 70 rushes on the season is what my outside of quarterback kneel downs, which technically count as a rush or whatever. I think
yeah, but that
70 rushing yards is a 70 rushing attempts for the season is a nice like center ground for him where there's some called plays and some scrambles, whatever they may be. But
dude,
I don't expect him to run a whole lot.
we're not allowed to give away plays, but they called a design quarterback run in minicamp. Like I think
It's going to be part of the offense.
Go back and watch Cliff. He loves the QB draw, loves it. I think you're saying 70 rush attempts, and I don't know that we're ever going to back out the QB kneel downs. And perhaps we're being pretty optimistic with QB kneel downs. We haven't seen a heck of a lot of those, unless it was like before halftime and Ron decided that he wasn't going to use his timeouts. But I think his legs are going to be a part of the game plan, whether that's 4 design calls, 6. I think it'll change depending on the game. I think it'll also change depending on like how much he runs early on is going to probably be some level of sub factor of how well he's throwing it. But I don't think if you're trying to make the point that like this ain't 2012 in the RG3 offense, I totally agree. Like this is not the same guy, not the same setup. Jayden is a passer. Robert came into the league able to make one read. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's maybe the bigger point I was making was I think that this speaks a lot for Brian Robinson and the opportunity that he's going to have this year, because quite frankly, his rookie year was messed up because of the shooting and whatnot. Last year they didn't run the ball at all. I think he's finally going to have an opportunity to be more of a bell cow running back, more of the NFL style bell cow running back, and I think he's going to get his opportunities to tote the football, and that's exciting for me as you look at what the offense looked like, particularly last year.
All right, good combo here. When we come back, we've got some of the best stuff we put together from throughout the offseason as we gear up for training camp right here on Beltway Football.